Hey guys, welcome to the second installment of ForgeCast, a weekly podcast dedicated to bringing you all the information you're going to need to dominate in SoulForge. I'm Kit, here with my co-host Fox, and we have some great things to talk about this week.
That is right. This week we have got a lot to talk about, specifically from GenCon, the recent tournament that was held last week, as well as the two upcoming tournaments this weekend, launch of a new set, and of course our weekly fan draft. But let's get started by introducing our guests this week.
Coming back with us, due to good behavior, we have Rajan. Rajan, I heard you had a funny story from GenCon this week involving an intoxicated Kibler. Would you like to share that briefly?
Well, I don't know what was funny. It was really awesome getting to hang out with the entire Stoneblade crew, especially Kibler. He's got a ton of interesting stories. After one of the days, ran over to a beer garden and then went over to a bar. I actually don't remember the name of the bar, but we cabbed over to a bar and met up with Will Wheaton I know, right? Just went over to meet Will Wheaton, and so Kibler could give him a copy of the newest Ascension set. Apparently he really likes Ascension and plays it a lot, so Kibler has been going out of his way to just give him copies of the game. And so that was just that was a ton of fun. It was like Kibler, Harrison, who I think is Plot Dog on the forums.
Yes.
I'm not positive. Okay. Jackie Lee, I think, was there. Is her name? She's actually one of the few female Magic players who has top 8 to the Grand Prix. Yeah. But yeah, just a grand old time getting to hang out with these guys. They're really cool, chill people, and I'm glad to have met them and gotten to work with them.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of cool people. I got to meet people like Hope, Masa, Plot Dog, U-Rager, and Racecar, Grim. There was everyone, including, Kibler, randomly seeing Will Wheaton walking around, just a ton of fun. And there was with us another person that I got to meet there at GenCon, and that would be Sailman Reborn. So Sailman, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and what you do for the community?
Okay, yeah, my name is Sailman Reborn on the forums, and what I do is I'm a writer for ForgeWatch.com, and I write the SoulForge Report and the SoulForge Community Spotlight. And the SoulForge Report is like the weekly news about SoulForge and Stoneblade Entertainment and what they're doing for the game, and in it we recap everything that's basically they've said on streams, Twitter, any type of post they ever do. And then the SoulForge Community Spotlight, what it is I take people's submissions for either artwork or articles, videos that they do, streamers, and I just put them all in one spot so people can actually find all that information without having to scour through all the different forum posts. Especially now that we're more popular, it's very hard for people to actually get exposure on the forums since they get booted off very quickly.
Well, I'm really glad that you do that. I mean, I know that very recently you were able to feature us on there, so shameless plug, I was very happy about that. I also heard that recently you had an interview with the owner of Stoneblade Entertainment while at GenCon. What was that like? Any highlights you want to share?
It was actually really awesome. Justin Gary was a really cool guy to talk to, and what we did was we talked about animated cards, normal drafting. We talked about card access currently to free-to-play players. We talked about silver rewards, then alternate formats, and also how they're going to be doing some of the God Mode tournaments in the future. And if you guys haven't heard that, I would really suggest you go to the SoulForge Report and look at the interview. I have the entire thing basically live when I recorded it, and you can listen to the entire interview. And there's some really good information on there.
That is a lot of good information. Would it change the drafting that we're expecting, and the God Mode tournaments for entering for silver and all that stuff's really, really, really interesting to hear. The free draft each week, that's something I'm personally really excited about. What do you guys think about that information? Do you guys think any of this is going to affect the competitive and free-to-play community?
Well,
Salmon?
Yes. Well, as far as the free drafts, I think it's a really good idea. It'll put a lot of cards in people's collections, and some people who've never tried out drafting before, I think that SoulForge's drafting method, which is going to be asynchronous and not drafting against other players, is much better for those type of people because it'll be a much more casual environment, and it will get them a lot of free cards into their collection. One of the things I also liked, which was also in the interview, was the fact that normal drafting for the more competitive players, the ones where you actually draft against other players is going to be in future. So having both of those kind of drafting there is going to be really good.
Yeah, it is. Basically, drafting before trading is just Stoneblade's way of saying we want people to play, and having drafting just appeals to a much wider range of people. And also it's a great way to just get cards in people's hands. So the fact that free-to-play players can get cards that, while they can't trade, they are getting cards for their collection so that they have access to a wider spread of cards. And also the coolest thing about this is that because it's looking like you get to choose your factions at the beginning, if there are specific factions where you have big holes in your personal card pool, you can just pick those factions every time and collect cards just from those two factions. It's a really good way to pinpoint and fill the holes in your collection.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoy as well the fact that, Stoneblade is going out of their way to make sure that free-to-play is a viable model for a lot of players and that they can be competitive. It's not going to be easy to be competitive. You have to be good at what you're doing, and, you have to really make sure you're playing correctly, but all the tools are there, and I think that's really the best thing. It's going to really allow the community to grow.
The specific part of that I want to highlight is the God mode tournaments that they're going to allow. The fact that no matter what your collection is, if you're a good player and you get invited to one of these God mode tournaments for being recognized as being a good player, or say you managed to earn your way there, you have full access to all the cards in order to be able to play. So free to play, pay to play, regardless where you are in your collection scale, you're still going to be able to be completely competitive, and that's something I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, I'm really excited by all this news, and the fact that it means that free-to-play players won't be penalized from playing competitively is really great, because it means if they're skilled, they can get all the tools they need. And for those who don't know, Kid and I are going to be providing free-to-play and budget-to-play videos and articles as part of our weekly content starting from September 1st. So hopefully that should be able to help you guys, make good decisions and approach your competitive play, and see how it is for everyone else as well.
Yeah, for me personally, my stance is I really want to help the free-to-play community. Most of the people who are paying are already committed to the game, so it's really the people who don't have the chance to spend money that I really want to help out and help them overcome that hurdle and that barrier to entry. That said, I'd like to ask you guys how you feel about the free-to-play model and what advice you guys might have for someone who's just starting out.
I actually was one of the things I was thinking about today, and I do a video blog too, and I'm actually going to do a little blurb about the daily rewards that they're offering, and we have a full compiled list now of all the rewards and what the percentage's chance of getting everything is, and from that, it seems like the packs actually are balanced. As far as if you were to pay gold for all of them, the gold values for them all are the same. Pretty much, you're going to get almost the same collection from each of them. Basic Booster is actually coming out on top just by a little bit as far as value. But as far as basic packs feel like to some people wow, I'm only getting 3 cards per pack, but you can get around 7 to 10 packs depending on your rewards. And the fact that getting premium and normal booster packs and all the cards are earnable, I think is actually really cool. I just feel that maybe Stoneblade needs to address how players view these rewards, and maybe they need to spread it out a little bit more, so that way that people can feel like they do more to get more, even though it might be the same amount of rewards themselves. So as far as advices for new players, I would suggest, first of all, dumping all your silver into the normal packs, or the basic booster packs, because they actually are very good. They're actually very comparable to normal booster packs, and even if they were to cost more silver, it'd just be the same rewards almost.
Yeah, as far as free-to-play goes, keep in mind that the rewards that we are getting for the free-to-play are very generous. I don't think I've ever seen another free-to-play game that gives you so much, that gives you access to so much so quickly. You're always getting, in theory, you're always getting 3 or 4 basic booster packs just off of silver every day. And then that's on top of the basic legendary, normal, and just cards that you can get. Like, you get a ton of cards each day. And while it seems like the elusive legendaries are so far away, they're really not. And on top of that, legendaries really don't win games. They're powerful, splashy cards that look really cool, but they by themselves do not win games. Like, the deck that I am playing right now runs 2 legendaries, and those could be replaced.
Yeah, as for me, with the free-to-play model, I've been actually playing it pretty consistently ever since the first set went live, and I've been fairly competitive with it because I would like to note that it's easier to build aggressive decks on a budget than it is to build a controlling style deck, and that's what I've done. You know, I've opened a couple splashy legendaries from my packs and my daily rewards, and I've implemented them into my deck, and they do help. I mean, they are splashy and powerful. But the majority of the work done in the deck is done by all those commons and rares that you get, and just by building, you know, I'm going to kill my opponent as fast as I can. 9 times out of 10, if your opponent's slow at all, you're probably going to win. And that's the important thing.
I'd like to point out that on day 1, Fox opened a Doomwing in his very first free-to-play pack. That's something I definitely want to point out. I think everybody here has pulled at least 1 legendary, if not more. I know I've pulled more out of free-to-play packs, and
I haven't. I'm supremely unlucky.
Sorry. Well, I know Fox and I have. Have you pulled any, Salmon?
I've pulled 3. But I also got a premium pack as one of those, so...
Well, between my 2 accounts, I've managed to pull 5. The things I want to highlight for new players is you start with one of the best possible cards for taking over a game. In your basic pack, you get a Grimgaunt Predator right in your starter deck, and that card, if you play it right, if you're putting in rages on it, or if you're using removal on cards in front of it, you can let that card get out of hand. And even an experienced player like Fox or myself, we lose to that card probably once a day, twice a day. I mean, we have more tools to handle it, but we still lose to it. It gets out of hand really quickly, and if you take the time to learn how to utilize that, you can be winning left and right against people who've invested $100 into the game. The other thing I want to mention to you guys is there's another group that makes podcasts. They recently, it's the Envy and Crew, recently did a pay-to-win versus buy it faster video. They put that on the forums. I'll provide a link to that down below. They're another really good resource if you feel like the game's pay to win. Listen to their video. They got a lot of good points. And then just one last tool if you're looking to see what all the cards are in the set so you can prepare. ForgeWatch has the full spoiler up on their site. We'll give you a link to that. And then Forge Post has a deck builder that allows you to just build a deck and see all the images there as well. So those are also tools that I'll give you guys down in the comments.
Well, those are all great ideas, guys, so thanks for the input. I'm sure that's going to help a lot of people. There's actually been a few free-to-play players in the last weekend's community tournament as well, and they fared pretty well. Most of the decks with legendaries seem to bottom out, and I actually, made that approach, tried it out, and while they all were good cards individually, they didn't really mesh together, and I think that was the big thing. But it looks like Flameshaper Savant itself is what dominated the meta last weekend. And it's pretty cool that that card isn't a heroic or a legendary, but it's a rare, and it was featured in so many of the top placing decks. So what do you all think? Do you think this is any indication of the coming meta?
Yes and no. Especially if Flameshaper itself is the Shapers themselves got a very powerful buff after the last update. They didn't do nearly as much as they do now. And one of the changes they made, specifically to Life Shaper and Steel Shaper, is that they don't affect themselves. Well, Flame Shaper protects itself very well. It does a lot of damage. It can keep itself in play. So just dropping it in an unblocked lane says, answer me or I'm going to wipe your entire board, essentially. So it is a very powerful card. But I feel like more people have more collections this time around, and people are going to be playing a lot more controlling types decks, and I expect a lot more of the spells decks that we've been seeing with the Loyan on it. I haven't really playtested much myself. I'm playing more of the aggressive side, but and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm playing Flame Shaper.
Yeah, Flame Shaper is absolutely fantastic right now. There are actually a bunch of counters to it, but the big thing with the Flame Shaper is that because you still get 2 plays, you can drop a Flame Shaper and then play at least one other spell. I know that like the spells deck is able to get off maybe like another 2, sometimes 3 plays after having to play a Shaper, and that can add up to a lot of damage. But playing to beat Shaper, it's going to be an interesting metagame because every metagame is always like this cycle of decks that beat each other. So like for instance, you could build a very aggressive deck somewhere like in the 9 aggressive creatures, plus other value spells and more power, and then bigger stuff, so that you can have a chance against some of the more controlling decks. But like 9 good aggressive creatures can just race Shapers very easily. But then like those decks a lot of times will like die to like the Terran growth decks, or like a good armored robots deck. So we're I assume that the metagame is going to boil down to 3-4 commonly played decks with some outliers that are built to specifically beat that metagame. As for this particular tournament, I really don't know. I didn't pay attention to the last tournament, and I know that Flame Shaper's good, so I expect to see a lot of that.
For me, I definitely expect, at least for this week and possibly next week, Flame Shaper to dominate the meta. Mostly this is a consistency issue. The Shapers are all found at rare. That means they're easily acquired by all players. All the pay players at least have a playset of all of them, or I'd assume they do. All the free-to-play players should be at least having 2 of all the Shapers by now, just because they're so commonly found in packs. Now, if you don't have them, I apologize, but I mean they're fairly easy to acquire. So I expect them to be dominating just because of that. Going beyond that, just ways to counter them. Gemhide Basher, Cull of the Week are really, really low. They're low-tier rarity cards that do exactly what you need them to. They 1-for-1, so you are not getting ahead, but at least it lets you answer them before their next turn. Most other cards will have to sit there, like Blightwalker, will have to sit there for a turn, and they'll get full value out of their Shaper, and possibly even kill your Blightwalker. So those are my counters to that. I expect the metagame to shift as people get access to more cards. Probably by mid-next month, I expect that Flame Shaper will be high in the list of decks played. It won't be so dominant.
Yeah, I think the lower tier rarities is where we're really going to see the sort of meat and potatoes of the tournaments for the next few weeks. And so the Shapers are all going to be a significant part of that. They're solid role players, and in some cases they are actually centerpieces of decks like Flame Shaper. But they all fill different roles in all the decks that they're played in, and they're pretty important, so I expect to see almost every single Shaper seeing some play within the next few weeks.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all that. I don't know how many of you are playing in Saturday's tournament, but with you going in there, what would you play, and what would you recommend people play, say if they're on a limited budget?
I would recommend that they play a kind of an aggressive deck if they're on a budget, because it's kind of, like we said earlier, it's kind of like one of the easier ones to make, and it's kind of a little bit more intuitive to play. What I'm planning on playing is actually something pretty aggressive, involving Rageborn Hellion. Is going to be basically the MVP of my deck, and I've kind of been playtesting it and designing it, and I'm hoping to run it this Saturday.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about the meta being very aggressive, because I'm probably still going to run my version of Aloyan Tempe's spells. I can't really give you any details on the list because I kind of feel like I've broken the metagame, but those aggressive. I'm sorry. I have not lost a game in like 4 days. It's really crazy.
That's a challenge, guys. If you hear that, just send all your challenges to Raidrin.
Yeah. Raidrin, RAIDRINN on both Steam and on the forums. I'll take you all on. But the aggressive decks can be problematic if I get a below average draw. An average draw, it usually ends up being very close, but a below average draw, I will get crushed. But yeah, so that's what I'm playing. Also, I'll even give you guys like a little hint. Metasculpt is a lot more powerful than you think, and if you're playing Aloyan and you're not playing Metasculpt, you should be.
Oh, I just got one thing to say, and that is Raidrin does Dallas. I mean, he's going to take you all on. For me, this weekend, I'm playing a Haymaker deck. I'm playing all the big, dumb green creatures. I mean, if you play Magic, think Dungrove Elder. It's my favorite Magic card. I'm finally happy that I can play Utera, because in the previous meta, back before we got the set released, I wouldn't play it because I hated how Packmaster worked. Everybody hated it. It wasn't fun. Now I can finally play it. I don't have to have those worries. I'm playing Shardplate Mutant, which people say is a bad card. I love it. I'm playing Talzin, which people say you don't want at levels 1 and 2. I don't care if you're playing extra cards. I don't care if you're spending cards to kill it. I'm playing Prowlers. I don't care if you know my whole deck list. I've given it out to a bunch of people, and if you want it, feel free to ask me. I will give it to you. I will warn you, it is very saturated with higher rarity cards, but that's because, you know, the cards that are really, really, really strong at level 1 are given that rarity, so they're not dominating, and they're not easy to get. So that's what I would play. If I were to recommend something, I would recommend taking a look at some of the commons you get in your starter deck, specifically the Forge Guardian, that's a 1918, I believe. Maybe it's an 1820 at level 3 with armor 4. And look at the Assassin, both of them in Aloyan. The Assassin's a 1314 at level 2. Both really, really strong cards that allow you to be very, very aggressive and have a solid game plan. And they're not horrible cards at other stats. They're average or slightly below average, but at those levels they are by far some of the strongest creatures you'll see. So there's some free-to-play advice for you.
Yeah, for myself, I'm most likely going to end up playing some version of the Spells deck. I've been testing a couple different versions going in. There might be something that might prevent me from playing this weekend, but most likely I will be. So I'm going to be on controlling all the things by playing all the spells. I just really love spells. It's so much fun. But there is another tournament this weekend, and Kid is actually hosting that.
Yes, I'm really, really, really excited about this. This is going to be me hosting my first tournament under Forge Watch's banner. It's going to be a format we're calling Unheroic because it's a very intuitive title. It lets people know that they can play both rares and commons and nothing else.
There have been some people who call it Pauper as well, which is a pretty recognized name for its popularity in Magic, but it's not quite as descriptive.
Well, you know what? I love Pauper, and I'm sure once we get the second set, or maybe a couple small set pools released, we'll be able to play Pauper, but I plan on getting to that format eventually. For those of you who don't know, in Magic, Pauper is all commons. For Unheroic, we're playing with commons and rares. In Magic, that's called Pheasant. I don't want to call a deck Pheasant or Peasant or whatever you want to call it. I don't like that name, so I came up with an intuitive one. If you want to call it Pheasant, you're welcome to, but it is not Pauper. We will have that format eventually.
Well, since it was explained that way, that does make a lot of sense, and I'm sure that once we get more cards, we can see things like Highlander as well as a format. But with all of you guys, what is your experience with Unheroic, and what do you think we'll see this weekend?
Well, I actually did a lot of playtesting with it, surprisingly. I kind of was bored and decided to figure, okay, what are people going to be playing? So I just started challenging people or requesting challenges on the Soulforge community group. And then on there, I pretty much have found out that everyone is playing Flameshaper. Like, almost everyone. And most people are also playing with him Darkshaper. So those two cards, once again, they both protect themselves. It allows you to just kind of go off with all these spells, and I expect people to play those, and I expect the top decks to actually have, other than their shapers, have creatures that take more than one activation to kill or 2 activations to kill, and defensively. That way, it's harder for them to clear them off the board. But other than that, expect to see a lot of Flame Shapers in the tournament.
I myself haven't really looked into Unheroic as a format. I'm waiting for more sets. Pretty much, I feel like, for me personally, the card pool is small enough that I just don't even want to deal with it right now. For a card pool this small, it's likely to end up being like one or 2 dominant decks at most, and I find that I personally find that just uninteresting. But as an idea, both Unheroic and Pauper are actually can be really awesome formats, and I'm looking forward to having more cards so that I can delve into that myself.
I think no matter the format, we're all looking forward for more cards. That's the most exciting part of any game, is just Christmas! I mean, I definitely love brewing. For me, it doesn't matter what the format is in any game. I love brewing. Just give me some restrictions. You can just make up some restrictions right now. Like, you can't play Shapers? Good. I'll go try and build a deck for an all-common format, or whatever you want to do. I love doing that. For me, I expect to see Shapers as well. I think that no matter what deck you see this weekend, it's going to have either Dark Shaper or Flame Shaper in it. I don't expect to see an Aloy and Nuterra mix. That said, my deck is going to have 3 Bashers and 2 Call the Weak for that exact reason. I'm making sure that I'm always dealing with the Shapers. I'm going to level those cards no matter when they're in my hand. The moment I see a card that I can kill with Cull, it's coming out. Whether I can kill a card or not with Basher, it's coming out. I'm making sure they stay level so I can actually address that problem in the format.
For myself, if I was playing this weekend, unfortunately plans did not work out that well, I'd probably expect, a number of Necreum Tempest decks, simply because you get Dark Shaper and Flame Shaper, which allows you to have a lot of control on the board, but also because you get one of the best rares, in my opinion. The card is very strong. It's called Necro Slime, and it's just so good. I was playing a game against Noetherian the other day, and I was playing an Aloy and Nuterra Shapers deck, and I barely won. The game ended and I was at 3 life, but it was so close because one activation on a Necro Slime and I basically lost the game. Like a level 2 or level 3. Level 1's not hard to deal with, but the level 2 and level 3 get out of hand very, very quickly.
And Necro Slime is just sweet. I love that card.
It's an amazing card. Even Kibler said it on stream.
Yeah. It's just a good card, and the fact that it's a rare means it's probably going to be a dominant force in Heroic. That's what I feel. But, that said, I'd like to ask one more question before we head into our draft portion, and that is, what legendary is your favorite card? For me, I personally enjoy Gox Metamind Paragon, just because I freaking love drawing cards. I'm sorry, but it's my favorite thing to do. I was playing Ascension earlier today with some family members and friends, and my favorite thing was to draw all the cards.
I also want to point out that you are the second member of the community to be able to see that card.
That's true.
Me being the first.
Hipster kit.
What about you, Simon?
Well, I think my favorite card is actually a Boris. The 101 when your life is above 100 is just absolutely, like, kind of really cool and awesome. And I really like life gain decks. I actually like them in Magic as well. When the one deck that they had where you just played a whole bunch of weenie guys and built your life total up to a point where your angels, you had this like one card that turned into like a giant flying angel when your life total was above 30. It was absolutely awesome, like, to just play it that way. And then the opponent's like, well, I still have to do like a ton of life damage to you. So this is kind of like the epitome of that kind of card too for Soulforge. So I just really like the card and the way it was designed, because it's got a really nice like kind of defect and effect for what it does.
I would like to note that card blew Grimm's mind when he saw it the first time.
Literally exploded. The cleanup was terrible.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I'm like an old time Magic combo and control player. I had been playing for about 13 years, and so infinite anything just makes me happy, so therefore I have to go with Zemus the Undying. It does not die, and and while it itself does not make a deck, the fact that if you can get a couple of them all the way to level 3 and on the field, it's so much value, and by themselves they will hold off boards and slowly win the game by themselves. I'm really excited to at some point. I'm waiting for my third Zemus. I got very unlucky. I got very lucky with 2 pulls and pulled 2 Zemus out of some legendary packs that I bought. But I'm still waiting for my third before I attempt to do anything with them. But I'm hoping to make Zemus control, where Zemus is pretty much the only creature that actually attacks to win the game.
That's pretty cool. For me, I legged one of the first spoiler cards we got after Deckbuilder went live, and that is Bright Steel Gargoyle. I am very sad that a lot of the support for the robot deck, in order to make it competitive, is at the higher rarities, because I really want to be playing this card. I haven't gotten one. I've been destroyed by one. I think the card is amazing. I love Bright Steel Gargoyle, and I can't wait to play it. But speaking of getting rare things, I did want to bring us into our draft. Now, keep in mind, what we're doing for draft this time is going to be closer to what we think actual draft's going to be like based on the information we have. It's not finalized, but we're going to go about it this way anyways, and every week when we get more information, we'll go ahead and fix it up a little bit. So currently, we're going to have 4 high-rarity cards that we'll get to pick 2 of. Those will define the factions you'll see for the rest of the draft, and so say you pick Aloyan and Tempe's rare heroics, the rest of your cards are going to be only in those factions. So the first 4 cards we have are in Aloyan, Battle Tactician, in Necrium, Raid of the Grimgaunt, in Tempe's, Stormforged Avatar, and in Utera we have Mossbeard Patriarch. Simon, would you like to start?
Yeah, so Stormforged Avatar, unfortunately, is not a card that I would like to see, because while it is a cool card in a mono faction deck, you don't really expect to go mono faction in a draft, I feel, most of the time, especially with this kind of picking thing. So pretty much, I feel that Tempest is just out. So the two cards that I would pick, because I really don't like Mossbeard Patriarch, to be honest, it would just be Battle Technician and Rite of the Grimgaunt. It's just, those 2 cards themselves are really good, and I really do like the Aloyan Necrium mix.
I also would pick Battle Tactician and Rite of the Grimgaunt. Stormforged Avatar, I think, is one of the weaker of the Avatar cycle, and Mossbeard Patriarch is not what I want to be doing in draft. I like being more aggressive in draft, just because limited cards, and I can't consistently. I don't think you can consistently get a very good late game, at least that we've seen. Plus, Battle Tactician in and of itself is one of the most powerful heroics that I've seen. I mean, it's just a better general, and it's so good. I can't let that go. And Rite of the Grimgaunt itself just makes anything that you play into a scary creature. So I think those are the picks right there.
For myself, I take Battle Tactician for all the reasons noted. It's a very good card. It's also pretty aggressive. But I do take Mossbeard Patriarch because almost all the removal we're going to see, in the common and rare slots is damage-based in some form or another, and the ability that Mossbeard Patriarch has to just heal your creatures at will is extremely powerful, I feel. So that's actually what I want to take.
For me, I pretty much think that of the cards there, Rite of the Grimgaunt is the strongest card. It has it in of itself allows any one of your creatures to be a win condition. The other cards here don't. Everybody said Stormforged Avatar is weak. It is in a draft format. Battle Tactician's a great card, but it doesn't allow the same bomb protection of Rite of the Grimgaunt. And because I'm picking Rite of the Grimgaunt, I'm going to take the Mossbeard Patriarch, just because I want to heal that bomb. The only one-for-one removals are Blight Blightwalker-related effects, and what's the other one? Grave Pact. Those are the only cards that you can use in in common and rare that just flat out take out a big creature. So I'm more than happy to just sit there, set up trades, get my creature really huge, and heal it every time you deal damage to it. That's something I think makes it very powerful, and I want to experiment, especially early on in a limited format, with combos like that. I mean, I'm not going to learn if Patriarch's good if I don't try it, and I'm certainly in the current meta not going to play it in Constructed. That said, both Raedrin and Salmon, you picked the Aloyan and the Necrium heroics. So for the rares for you that we have for those, in Aloyan, we have Forge Guardian Beta, and we have Energy Surge, and in Necrium, we have Dr. Frankenbaum and Hungering Strike. Salmon, which two would you pick?
I would definitely pick Forge Beta Guardian over the Energy Surge. But you already picked up the Battle Technician, so you kind of want to have more aggressive cards going into this. Energy Surge takes a lot of things set up to use it effectively, and as far as a first pick like this, like going into to the actual packs, Forge Guardian Beta is on par with Forge Plate Sentry, which I feel is a very strong card as well, except for its level 2 is not the same, but its level 3 is actually better. And then for the Necrium pick, Dr. Frankenbaum, it just kind of has lower than average stats, and his ability you once again have to set up. So Hungering Strike, though, is a very powerful card for setting up trades, and I feel that that's actually a much better card. So I'd do Forge Guardian Beta and Hungering Strike.
I want to interject. I haven't heard anything about you having to be required to pick from both factions. I thought you could just pick two from the pack. Is that not true?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
we don't have very much information about it.
That's true. Let's go as if that's the assumption, just to make things easier for now, and we'll send some PMs, see if we can find out. What about you, Raedrin? What would you pick out of those four?
Well, I actually had to go and look up Forge Guardian Beta because for some reason I thought it was the Defender one. Now that I know it's the 5/3 armor one, I would definitely slam the Forge Guardian Beta here over the Energy Surge. Just because if it had been the defensive creature, I would have taken the Energy Surge just because I didn't like what was in the Aloyan pack, and I would like what could potentially be a free card to dig for my actual bombs, like Red of the Grimgaunt. But knowing that is because in drafts sometimes you can like stumble on your draws and you just don't your opponent will sometimes just not get a very strong draw, so you can get a free Energy Surge during player level 1 that doesn't hurt you too much, and then actually have free digging power later. But knowing now seeing that that's the actual creature, I would take the Forge Guardian Beta, and Dr. Frankenbaum I'm just not interested in. The ability is poor. It's not going to be triggered very often, and Hungering Strike is actually a very legitimate card, especially when you get to combo it with cards like Battle Tactician, which already have a high health pool. Now they actually just starts taking out things, plus the rest of your creatures on the field are now able to trade with just about anything. So Guardian Beta and Hungering Strike would be my two picks.
Alright, Fox, you had Battle Tactician and Mossbeard Patriarch. We already know what Battle Tactician gives us, but for Mossbeard Patriarch, we have Wildwood Sower and Cadaverous Thicket. Which two rares would you take?
In this case, there's two different ways I feel that this could go. I'd either take the Forge Guardian Beta plus Cadaverous Thicket, or Wildwood Sower plus Energy Surge. But most likely I'd take the Forge Guardian Beta and Cadaverous Thicket, because Cadaverous Thicket, it provides poison on other creatures without allowing you to block or something, and so that allows you to have a bit of extra removal in your deck without having to sacrifice too much to actually use it. And Forge Guardian Beta is just an amazing rare. The stats on it are awesome, and the armor is good. So I would take that. However, if I went the Wildwood Sower route, I definitely want the Energy Surge, because then I'm trying to look at more of a spells-focused deck. And I do think that Wildwood Sower goes well with Battle Tactician, simply because you're making a ton of little guys and then making them all have a ton of attack. But that said, I don't know if that's good in draft. So I'm probably the first time around going to take the the Forge Guardian Bait and Cadaverous Thicket, but if spells is viable, I will take the Wildwood Sower and Energy Surge.
Alright, for me, I took, again, the Necrium and the Utera one. I would take Hungering Strike no matter what over Dr. Frankenbaum. All the abominations I want to play are really at the higher rarities. It makes me sad. I mean, really the only one you get at common that's very playable is Glutton. I could be wrong. Don't all you abomination lovers hate me or anything over that. I'm still going to take Hungering Strike over it every time. Protects whatever you write of the Grimgaunt. Makes whatever you play a better card. The other card I take is going to be very, very, very clearly for me Cadaverous Thicket. I've been running it in my own heroic deck as a 3-of, and it has been amazing. The card deals with so many cards you wouldn't think it would deal with. Remember that it's every turn that you are hitting them with poison. So you hit them for the 1 damage, then they take the poison on their turn, they attack into the creature again, take 1 damage, get another stack of poison at the start of your turn, take 2. It's a great way for you to put a crappy creature in terms of damage in front of a card and block it for a turn or 2 and then kill it just by ignoring it. I mean, it lets you deal with creatures that normally one creature wouldn't deal with on its own. It just takes a little bit longer, and you get to soak up some damage while you're doing it. Beyond that, I would also like to point out for those of you at home that might have taken Stormforged Avatar, I just wanted to show you the 2 rares that you would have been able to pick, and that was Frozen Solid and Ashurian Mystic, both of which I think are very, very strong cards. Frozen Solid is either temporary removal or permanent removal, depending on if you can if you can deal damage, and many Tempest cards can just deal minuscule amounts of damage in order to take care of it, and Ashurian Mystic is just an all-around strong card.
Mm-hmm. Well, alright guys, Rager and Sailman, thanks again for coming on to the show. Next week we will be doing this again with our special guest, which is Racecar Zero, one of the most prominent members of the community, and if you all ask nicely, maybe we might have Rager coming back.
I also want to say that we have a special announcement on the next podcast, so look forward to that either Wednesday or Thursday next week.
Alright, until next time, say bye everyone!
Goodbye!
Bye.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye.